The massive alien station floated in the darkness of space like a sleeping giant. Captain Minho Park stood at the window of his transport ship, watching it grow larger as they approached. He had seen many incredible things in his 15 years of space travel, but nothing compared to this. The Galaxy Council's headquarters was built from materials that seemed to shimmer and change colors. It was said to be over 10,000 years old. Beside him, Dr. Ji-won Kim adjusted her uniform nervously. She was Earth's best expert on alien cultures, but even she felt small in the presence of such ancient power. "Do we know what they want?" she asked quietly. Minho shook his head. The message only said our presence was required. Nothing more. Their ship docked at one of the station's many arms. As they stepped out, Minho noticed something strange. There were no other ships nearby. Usually, the council station was busy with traffic from hundreds of worlds. Today, it seemed they were the only visitors. A tall, reptilian creature waited for them in the docking bay. Its scales were dark green and its eyes were yellow with vertical slits. "I am Counselor Vexthor of the Draxian Empire," it said in perfect English, though its voice had a hissing quality. "Follow me." They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls displayed images of countless alien species. Ji-won recognized some from her studies, but many were completely unknown to her. "How many species are part of the council?" she whispered to Minho. "Over 300, he replied. "At least that's what we've been told." Vexthor led them into a massive chamber. It was circular and rose high above them like a cathedral. Floating platforms held representatives from dozens of different species. At the center, on the highest platform, sat a being made entirely of crystal. It glowed with an inner light that pulsed slowly like a heartbeat. "Humans of Earth," the crystalline being spoke, and its voice seemed to come from everywhere at once. "I am High Arbiter Quinlara, leader of the Galaxy Council. You stand before us today to hear our judgment." Minho felt a chill run down his spine. "Judgment? We've done nothing wrong. We've followed all protocol since making first contact 20 years ago." A sound like laughter echoed through the chamber, though it came from no single source. "You misunderstand," Quinlara said. "This is not about what you have done recently. This is about what you are." Ji-won stepped forward. "What we are? We're humans. We're explorers, scientists, and diplomats seeking peaceful relations with other species." "You are violent," Vexthor hissed from below their platform. "We have studied your history. Your world has known almost constant warfare for thousands of years. You have weapons capable of destroying your own planet. You expand aggressively into space, claiming worlds and resources. Every species has a difficult past," Minho argued. "We've learned from our mistakes. The wars you speak of are behind us. Earth has been united for over 60 years. 60 years, Quinlara's voice was cold. "We have maintained peace in this galaxy for over 50,000 years. 60 years means nothing. You are children playing with fire, and we cannot allow you to burn down what we have built." The crystalline being pulsed brighter, and suddenly, a holographic display appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed Earth slowly rotating. Then it zoomed out, showing Mars with its domed cities, Europa with its underwater colonies, and the 3 nearby star systems where humans had established settlements. "In just 2 decades, you have spread like a disease," another voice spoke. This one came from a creature that looked like a floating jellyfish. "You take worlds and reshape them to suit your needs. You build weapons even as you speak of peace. You are dangerous." Minho felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. "Every species here has colonies. Every species has defenses. Why are we being singled out?" "Because you are different," Quinlara said. "We have watched thousands of species reach the stars. Most are peaceful. Some are aggressive but can be reasoned with. You humans are unique in your capacity for both creation and destruction. Your history shows a pattern of brief periods of peace followed by terrible violence. We cannot risk allowing this pattern to continue on a galactic scale." "What are you saying?" Ji-won asked, though she already feared the answer. "The Galaxy Council has made its decision," Quinlara announced. "Earth and all human colonies must surrender all military capabilities immediately. You will dismantle your defensive fleets. Your colonial expansion is to cease at once. All human settlements beyond Earth will be placed under the guardianship of the Draxian Empire, who will oversee your development until such time as we deem you ready for independence." "That's insane," Minho shouted. "You're asking us to make ourselves defenseless and submit to foreign rule." "We won't do it," Vexthor's eyes narrowed. "You have no choice. The decision is final. You have 90 standard cycles to comply. That is approximately 6 of your months. And if we refuse, Minho demanded. The High Arbiter's glow dimmed. Then we will do what must be done to protect the galaxy. Your species will be contained to your home world. Any resistance will be met with overwhelming force. You would attack us, a peaceful species that has never threatened you? Jiwan couldn't believe what she was hearing. We will do what is necessary, Quinlara said simply. To demonstrate that we are serious, we will give you a small example of our power. The holographic display changed, now showing Mars' colony in real time. Minho watched in horror as the colony's shield suddenly went dark. Alarms would be blaring down there as deadly radiation from space poured through the gap. He could imagine the panic as people rushed to emergency shelters. "Stop this," he yelled. "Those are civilians. Families." 10 minutes passed like hours. Finally, the shields came back online. "Consider this a mercy," Vexthor said. "We could have left them exposed. We could have destroyed the entire colony. This was merely a warning." Minho's hands were shaking with rage, but he knew they were trapped. "For now, we will take your message back to Earth," he said through clenched teeth. "See that you do," Quinlara replied. "And understand this, Captain Park. We have given ultimatums to 47 species in the past. All of them complied. Those who initially refused learned the price of defiance. Do not make the same mistake." The platform they stood on began to move, carrying them back toward the docking bay. As they walked to their ship, Jiwan grabbed Minho's arm. "What are we going to do?" Minho looked back at the massive station one last time. "We're going to tell Earth the truth. That we've been peaceful, diplomatic, and respectful. And it didn't matter. They've decided we're guilty simply for being human." "Will Earth fight?" she asked. "I don't know," Minho said honestly. "But I know one thing. The Council thinks we're dangerous because of our past. They have no idea what we're capable of when we're defending our future." Their ship undocked and began the long journey back to Earth. Behind them, the Council station continued its slow rotation, confident in its ancient power. The representatives inside had already forgotten about the humans, certain that this primitive species would bend to their will like all the others had. They would soon learn how wrong they were. The emergency session of the United Colonial Authority was packed with representatives from every nation on Earth. Minho stood at the podium, his face projected on screens across the planet. Billions of people watched as he delivered the Council's ultimatum. When he finished, silence filled the massive chamber. Then the shouting began. "They attack our Mars colony and expect us to surrender?" The delegate from Korea slammed his fist on the desk. "This is an act of war." "We must be reasonable," another voice called out. "They have the power to destroy us. We saw what they did to Mars in just 10 minutes. President Tae-Young-oh raised his hand for silence. He was a former military general who had led Earth's unification efforts 30 years ago. His gray hair and weathered face showed the weight of leadership. "Captain Park, do you believe they will follow through on their threats?" Minho nodded grimly. "Yes, Mr. President. They've done this before to other species. The Council sees us as nothing more than dangerous children who need to be controlled." Jiwan stepped forward. "I've analyzed their communications and behavior. They're absolutely certain we'll comply. In their entire history, no primitive species has ever successfully resisted them." "Then we'll be the first," a strong voice echoed through the chamber. Admiral Unisong entered the room. She commanded Earth's combined fleet, though compared to the Council's forces, it was barely a defense force. "We didn't unite Earth and reach the stars just to bow down to alien tyrants. Admiral, your fleet has 37 capital ships," President O said. "Intelligence reports suggest the Council can field thousands. How can we possibly fight them?" Yuna smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. "Mr. President, I'd like to introduce someone. Dr. Sunwoo Choi, please come forward." A nervous-looking man in his 50s approached the podium. He wore a simple lab coat and thick glasses. He didn't look like someone who could save humanity. "Hello," he said quietly. "I run a small research facility in Antarctica." "Dr. Choi is being modest," Yuna said. "His facility is actually the headquarters of Project Prometheus, a program that's been running for 15 years, completely classified until this moment." President O leaned forward. "What kind of project?" Sunwoo adjusted his glasses. We've been developing weapons based on theoretical physics that most alien species haven't explored. You see, when we studied the Council's technology from our early contacts, we noticed something interesting. They're incredibly advanced, but they're also stagnant. They haven't innovated in thousands of years. He brought up holographic displays, showing complex mathematical formulas and weapon designs. While they perfected energy shields and plasma weapons millennia ago, we've been working on something different. Quantum entanglement weapons that can bypass shields entirely. Dark matter torpedoes that are invisible to conventional sensors. And singularity mines that can create temporary wormholes. The chamber erupted in excited murmurs. "How many of these weapons do we have?" someone asked. "Enough," Sunwoo said. "We built them in secret, disguised as civilian research stations. We never thought we'd need them, but we prepared anyway." A young man in an intelligence officer's uniform stood up. "If I may, Mr. President, I have additional information." This was Agent Do-Yun Kang, one of Earth's best spies. "I've been monitoring Council communications for 3 years. They're arrogant to the point of blindness. Their military tactics haven't changed in 3,000 years because they've never needed to change them. Every species they've encountered either surrendered immediately or was crushed using the same old strategies." "Are you saying we have a chance?" President O asked. "I'm saying they won't see us coming," Do-Yun replied. "They expect us to either submit or fight conventionally. We do neither." Commander Hyun Lee, who led Earth's defensive fleet operations, stood up. "I've been reviewing our options. If we pretend to comply while secretly preparing, we can buy ourselves time. We move ships into position, activate the hidden weapons, and prepare for the fight of our lives." Minho felt hope stirring in his chest for the first time since leaving the Council station. "There's something else." Jiwan discovered something in the Council's databases. Jiwan pulled up intercepted communications. Not every species in the Council joined willingly. At least 20 of them were conquered and forced into submission. They're treated as second-class members, given token representation but no real power. Some of their communications suggest they resent the Council, but are too afraid to resist. "Potential allies," President O said thoughtfully. "Exactly," Jiwan confirmed. "If we can make contact with them secretly, show them that resistance is possible, we might not be alone in this fight." Admiral Yuna spread a star map across the holographic display. "Here's my proposal. We publicly appear to negotiate and stall for time. Captain Park plays the role of the defeated diplomat trying to get better terms. Meanwhile, we fortify every human colony. We position our fleet using the new weapons, and we reach out to the oppressed species quietly." "The Council is sending a Guardian fleet led by the Draxians," Minho said. "According to Do-Yun's intelligence, War Master Korvath commands it. He's known for being brutal but predictable." "Perfect," Yuna said. "Predictable enemies make tactical mistakes." President O looked around the chamber. "This is the most important decision in human history. We can surrender and hope for mercy, or we can fight for our freedom. But understand this. If we fight and lose, the consequences will be severe. They might not just occupy us. They might end us." The chamber fell silent. Then the Korean delegate stood up. "My ancestors fought for freedom against impossible odds. They didn't surrender. Neither will I." One by one, other delegates stood in agreement. President O nodded slowly. "Then it's decided. We fight. But we fight smart. Admiral Song, begin preparations immediately but maintain absolute secrecy. Dr. Choi, I want those weapons ready for deployment within 4 months. Agent Kang, continue monitoring Council communications and identify potential allies among the oppressed species." He turned to Minho. "Captain Park, you have the hardest job. You need to go back to the Council and play the part of a defeated man seeking terms. Buy us every day you can." Minho straightened his uniform. "I can do that, sir. I'll make them think we're broken." "Good," President O said, "because when we hit them, it needs to be completely unexpected." Over the next weeks, Earth transformed. On the surface, everything appeared normal. News broadcasts showed debates about the Council's demands. Protests filled the streets. It looked like a planet in chaos, unable to decide its fate. But beneath the surface, humanity prepared for war. Factories that supposedly made civilian goods actually produced weapons. Science stations activated hidden arsenals. The fleet moved into defensive positions under the guise of routine exercises. Minho sent regular communications to the council, begging for more time, asking for negotiations, playing the desperate diplomat. Vexthor and the others treated him with contempt, but they granted small delays. They enjoyed watching humans squirm. Meanwhile, Jiwan made contact with a species called the Voktar. They had been conquered by the council 400 years ago. Their leader, Jack Ren, was cautious at first, but when Jiwan showed him Earth's weapons and resolve, something changed in his eyes. Hope. If you can truly resist, Jack Ren said through the encrypted channel, others will follow. We've been waiting for someone brave enough to stand up first. 4 months after receiving the ultimatum, sensors detected the Draxian fleet entering the solar system. 200 warships, the largest force ever sent to subjugate a single species. War Master Korvath broadcast his message across all human channels. Your time is up. Surrender now or be destroyed. Admiral Yuna Song stood on the bridge of her flagship. Around her, the crew waited tensely. She opened a channel that every ship in both fleets could hear. Her response was simple. No. The word echoed across space. In that moment, everything changed. The Council had pushed humanity to the edge, expecting them to fall. Instead, Earth pushed back. The battle for humanity's future was about to begin. War Master Korvath couldn't believe what he had just heard. No species had ever refused the Council's demands so directly. He sat on the bridge of his massive flagship, surrounded by holographic displays showing the primitive human defenses. 200 Draxian warships against 30 human vessels. This would be over quickly. Insolent creatures, he hissed to his officers. They dare to defy the Council. Destroy them. Leave their homeworld intact, but make them watch as we obliterate their pathetic fleet. The Draxian armada moved forward in perfect formation. They had used this same attack pattern for thousands of years. It had never failed. Their shields glowed with power as their weapons charged. The human ships just floated there, waiting. On Earth, billions watched the live feeds from space. Parents held their children close. In shelters across the planet, people prayed to whatever gods they believed in. This was it, humanity's last stand. Admiral Yuna stood calmly on her bridge. Her crew looked terrified, but they trusted her. Positions? She asked quietly. All stealth ships are in position, her tactical officer reported. The Draxians have no idea they're there. Yuna smiled. Lieutenant Jiho Nam, execute your plan. Jiho was young, barely 25, but he was brilliant. He had spent months studying Draxian tactics and found their weakness. Yes, Admiral. Sending the signal now. The Draxian fleet advanced, confident and unstoppable. Their shields could withstand anything these humans threw at them. Their weapons could tear through the human ships like paper. Korvath watched as his fleet closed the distance, almost in range now. Then space itself seemed to shimmer behind his fleet. 120 ships appeared out of nowhere. They had been there all along, hidden by stealth technology the Council didn't know humans possessed. The Draxian rearguard suddenly found themselves facing a wall of human warships at point-blank range. Impossible, Korvath roared. Where did they come from? But his shock turned to laughter. It doesn't matter. They're still outnumbered and outgunned. All ships turn and engage. Show these primitives the power of the Council. The Draxian shields activated to maximum strength. Nothing could penetrate them. Conventional weapons would just bounce off harmlessly. Korvath had seen it 1,000 times before. Then the humans fired. The quantum entanglement weapons didn't look like much. No bright beams of energy. No explosive missiles. Just brief flickers of light. But what happened next made every alien species watching from across the galaxy freeze in disbelief. The weapons ignored the Draxian shields completely. They passed through as if the shields didn't exist. The quantum particles were entangled with matter inside the Draxian ships. Targeting their power cores directly, physics itself became a weapon. Draxian ships began exploding from the inside out. Their shields stayed active even as their cores detonated. Korvath watched in horror as ship after ship on his tactical display turned red and went dark. Shields aren't working, his officers screamed. They're bypassing our defenses. Evasive maneuvers, Korvath ordered. Return fire! The Draxian fleet scattered, abandoning their perfect formation. They fired everything they had at the human ships. Plasma bolts and energy beams lit up space. Some human ships were hit, their shields buckling under the assault. 3 human vessels exploded. But the rest kept firing. Dark matter torpedoes launched from the human fleet. The Draxians couldn't see them coming on their sensors. The torpedoes were made from matter that didn't interact with normal light or energy. By the time the Draxians realized they were under attack, the torpedoes were already hitting their targets. More ships erupted in flames. On Earth, people watched in stunned silence as the impossible happened. The mighty Draxian fleet was being torn apart. Cheers began to erupt in cities across the planet. Humanity was winning, but Korvath wasn't finished. He was a veteran of countless battles. All ships focus fire on their command vessel. If we take out their admiral, the rest will fall into chaos. 50 Draxian ships concentrated their fire on Yuna's flagship. The shields held for a few seconds, then began to fail. Warning alarms blared across the bridge. Shield strength at 40%, someone reported. 30%. We can't take much more of this. Yuna remained calm. Captain Soman Han, you're up. In the chaos of battle, a single small ship darted through the fighting. The stealth ship Indomitable was commanded by Captain Soman Han, one of Earth's best pilots. She had one mission: capture the Draxian flagship. This is crazy, her co-pilot muttered as they dodged plasma fire. We're going to fly right into the enemy command ship? That's exactly what we're doing, Soman replied. Her hands moved across the controls with practiced precision. The Indomitable was small and fast, designed for special operations. It slipped through the battle unnoticed. Soman brought her ship alongside Korvath's massive flagship. Activating magnetic clamps, cutting through their hull now. The Indomitable attached itself to the Draxian ship like a parasite. Cutting lasers sliced through the armored hull. Within minutes, they had created an entry point. Soman and her team of 20 Marines put on their combat suits and entered the enemy vessel. The Draxians inside were completely unprepared for boarders. They had never been boarded in the history of their empire. Soman's team moved through the corridors quickly, using weapons specifically designed to work in ship environments. They stunned every Draxian they encountered. On the bridge, Korvath suddenly realized something was wrong. Intruder alert on Deck 7, a panicked officer reported. No, Deck 5. They're everywhere. Impossible, Korvath snarled. We're in the middle of a battle. How did they get on my ship? The bridge doors exploded inward. Soman and her Marines rushed in. The Draxian guards tried to fight back, but the humans were faster. Within seconds, every guard was down. Soman pointed her weapon directly at Korvath. War Master, you're coming with us, she said. Korvath reached for his sidearm, but Soman fired first. The stun blast hit him in the chest. The mighty War Master collapsed to the deck unconscious. Target secured, Soman reported over the comm. Returning to our ship. They dragged Korvath back through the corridors and onto the Indomitable. The stealth ship detached and vanished back into the chaos of battle. The leaderless Draxian flagship drifted helplessly. Admiral Yuna watched the tactical display. In 12 minutes of fighting, 80% of the Draxian fleet had been destroyed or disabled. The remaining ships were fleeing in every direction, their formation completely broken. Cease fire, Yuna ordered. Let them run. Let them tell the Council what happened here. The human fleet stopped shooting. The surviving Draxian ships didn't need to be told twice. They engaged their faster-than-light drives and escaped back toward Council space. Across Earth, celebrations erupted. People poured into the streets, crying and laughing and hugging strangers. They had done the impossible. They had defeated a Council fleet. But Yuna knew this was just the beginning. She opened a secure channel to President O. Sir, we've won the first battle. I'm transmitting the footage to our communications network now. Broadcast it across known space, President O ordered. Let every species in the galaxy see what happened here. Let them know that the Council can be beaten. Within hours, the battle footage reached hundreds of worlds. Species that had lived under Council rule for centuries watched in amazement as humanity destroyed the Draxian fleet. In the Council chambers, High Arbiter Quinn Lara watched the same footage. The crystalline being's glow turned from blue to angry red. This is an existential threat, Quinn Lara declared to the assembled Council members. If other species see that the Council can be defeated, our entire order will collapse. We must crush Earth completely, Assemble the full council armada. I want 2,000 ships ready to depart immediately. Vextor bowed. It will be done, High Arbiter. Earth will burn for this. But in the darkest corners of the galaxy, on worlds that had suffered under council rule for generations, something new was stirring, something the council had spent millennia suppressing. Hope. And with hope came the courage to dream of freedom. The galaxy would never be the same again. The council's response was swift and brutal. 2,000 warships from a dozen different species gathered at the edge of known space. It was the largest military force assembled in 5,000 years. High Arbiter Quinlara commanded them personally. Earth's small victory would be answered with total annihilation. Minho watched the reports coming in from Agent Do-hyun's spy network. The numbers were staggering. 2,000 ships, he said quietly to Admiral Yuna. Even with our new weapons, we can't survive that. Yuna studied the star maps in silence. Then we don't fight them head-on. We change the rules of the game entirely. Meanwhile, on a distant world called Vaktar Prime, something remarkable was happening. Ambassador Unji Lim stood before a gathering of alien leaders. She had been sent secretly to meet with species that the Council had conquered centuries ago. These were the oppressed, the forgotten, the species that had no voice in the Council's decisions. Unji was a career diplomat who had spent years learning alien cultures and languages. She spoke now in the Vaktar tongue, her words translated across multiple channels. Earth stands alone against the Council's armada. We will likely fall, but we wanted you to know that resistance is possible. We proved that one species fighting for freedom can defeat Council forces. Jakran, the leader of the Vaktar, stood up. He was old, his blue skin wrinkled with age, but his eyes burned with intensity. 400 years ago, the Council came to our world. They said we were too aggressive, too dangerous. They took our weapons, occupied our colonies, and made us servants in our own space. We had no choice but to obey. He looked at the other alien leaders present. But Earth had a choice. They chose to fight. And they won. He turned back to Unji. You ask for nothing from us. You came only to share your story. But I will tell you something, human. If Earth fights, we will fight beside you. The Vaktar have waited 4 centuries for this moment. A creature that looked like a floating jellyfish spoke next. The Velnar also suffered under Council rule. Our people were enslaved to mine resources for the Council's core worlds. If there is a chance for freedom, we will take it. One by one, other species pledged their support. By the end of the meeting, 7 species had agreed to rebel when the time was right. Unji sent an encrypted message back to Earth. Hope was spreading across the galaxy. But Earth needed more than hope. They needed a miracle. Dr. Sunwoo gathered his team in the secret Antarctic facility. We've used the quantum weapons and dark matter torpedoes. But we have one more weapon we haven't deployed yet. The singularity mines. He pulled up schematics that made even experienced scientists' heads hurt. Using the Council's own Stargate network, which we hacked months ago, we've positioned these mines throughout Council space. Each mine can create a temporary wormhole. Our ships can travel instantly from one point to another. Commander Hyun Lee understood immediately. We can strike anywhere in the galaxy without warning. Hit their military bases, supply lines, shipyards. Exactly, Sunwoo confirmed. But there's more. We have something even the Council doesn't know exists. He revealed a data file marked with the highest security classification. Agent Do-hyun didn't just spy on the Council. He stole their complete strategic database. Do-hyun appeared on screen from his hidden location deep in Council space. I have the locations of every military installation, every supply depot, every command center. More importantly, I have their communication protocols and defense schedules. The Council's entire military infrastructure is an open book to us. Admiral Yuna felt pieces of a plan falling into place. We can't beat them in a direct fight, but we can force them to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. Spread them thin, Minho nodded, and while they're scattered, the rebellions begin. The Council won't just be fighting Earth, they'll be fighting half the galaxy. There was one more piece to the puzzle. An encrypted message arrived from an unexpected source. It was from Seer Mothrix, an ancient member of the Council itself. The message was simple. Not all of us agree with this tyranny. I will help you. Jiwon analyzed the message carefully. This could be a trap. Or it could be genuine, Minho said. Even within the Council, there must be those who disagree with crushing species for simply being different. President O made the decision. We accept the help. We need every advantage we can get. Mothrix proved to be real and extremely valuable. The ancient being secretly provided Earth with real-time updates on Council fleet movements and strategic plans. With this information, Commander Hyun Lee devised a bold strategy. We let the Council Armada enter our solar system, he explained to the War Council. They'll expect to find Earth's defenses concentrated around our homeworld. Instead, we'll be gone. Gone? President O asked. Our entire fleet will use the singularity mines to jump across the galaxy. We'll hit 12 different Council military installations simultaneously. Their armada will be sitting in our solar system with nothing to attack while we destroy their infrastructure across 1,000 light-years. It was insane. It was brilliant. It was humanity's only chance. The Council Armada arrived at Earth's solar system expecting resistance. Instead, they found empty space. The human fleet had vanished. Quinalara's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. Where are they? Find them. At that moment, alarms began blaring throughout Council space. Human ships appeared at a major Draxian shipyard and destroyed it in minutes. Another fleet hit a Council ammunition depot. A third attacked a training facility. Commander Hyun led the assaults personally, coordinating strikes across impossible distances. The Council forces panicked. They had never fought an enemy that could be everywhere at once. Ships broke away from the main armada to defend their home systems. The 2,000-ship fleet began to fracture. Then the rebellions began. Jakran and the Vokhtar attacked Council administrative centers in their sector. The Velnar sabotaged mining operations. 3 other species joined within hours. Council forces found themselves fighting on dozens of fronts. High Arbiter Quinlara watched the galactic map in horror. Red warning lights appeared across the display. This is impossible. One primitive species could not organize this. Mothrix spoke from the shadows of the council chamber. Perhaps we were wrong to call them primitive. Perhaps we have been the primitive ones, relying on fear and force for so long that we forgot species can be inspired by courage. Quinlara turned on the ancient seer. You helped them. I helped free the galaxy from tyranny, Mothrix replied calmly. Something we should have done thousands of years ago. On Earth, Minho stood with G1 watching the reports flood in. Victory after victory, species after species joining the rebellion. It's working, G1 said in amazement. The council is falling apart. But Minho knew they weren't finished yet. The council still has their core systems and their central command. We've hurt them, scattered them, but they're not defeated. Not yet. Admiral Yuna appeared on the screen. Then we finish this. Mothrix has sent us the location and defense codes for Centralis Prime, the Council's capital world. President O joined the conversation. Are you suggesting we attack their homeworld? I'm suggesting we end this war before more people die on either side, Yuna replied. We've proven we can fight. Now we prove we can win. And we offer them the same choice they gave us, surrender or face destruction. The plan was set. 23 species now stood together in what they called the Free Systems Coalition. Earth had gone from standing alone to leading a galactic revolution in a matter of weeks. The oppressed had found their voice, and it was shouting for freedom. High Arbiter Quinlara made one final broadcast. The Council offers terms. Cease your attacks and we will negotiate a peaceful settlement. Minho responded with words that echoed across the stars. The time for negotiation was when we came in peace. You chose war. Now we choose victory. The coalition fleet prepared for the final battle. Centralis Prime waited ahead, the heart of council power for 50,000 years. It had never been attacked, never been threatened. That was about to change. Centralis Prime hung in space like a jewel, protected by layers of shields and defense platforms that had stood for thousands of years. The planet was home to the Council's government, their courts, their archives. It had never known war. That isolation from violence was about to end. Fleet Admiral Chaewon-seo commanded the Coalition Armada from her flagship. She had been promoted after the successful guerrilla campaign. Now she faced the most important mission in galactic history. Behind her fleet were ships from 23 different species, all united under one cause. Freedom. All ships report ready, her tactical officer announced. Chaewon looked at the faces on her screen. Human captains, Vokhtar commanders, Velnar pilots. Different species, different worlds, but the same determination in all their eyes. This is it, Chaewon said quietly. We're not here to destroy. We're here to liberate. Remember that. The fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Centralis system. Immediately, warning sirens blared on the planet below. The Council had pulled most of their forces back to defend their homeworld. 500 warships waited in orbit, with planetary shields and defense stations adding to their power. High Arbiter Quinlara broadcast from the surface. Turn back now. Attack Centralis Prime and you attack the very heart of galactic civilization. We have maintained order for 50,000 years. Would you destroy that for your pride? Minho Park stood beside Chiwon on the bridge. He had been appointed as the Coalition's official representative. High Arbiter, you speak of order, but it's an order built on fear and oppression. Real civilization doesn't require submission. It requires cooperation. We're not here to destroy your order. We're here to replace it with something better. Your children playing at Revolution, Quinlara replied. This ends now. The Council fleet attacked. Energy beams and plasma bolts filled the space between fleets. The battle was massive. Ships from dozens of species fighting in a clash that would decide the galaxy's future. Chaewon coordinated the Coalition forces with practiced skill, using the tactics Earth had developed. But the Council's defenses were stronger than anything they had faced before. Coalition ships began taking heavy losses. The planetary shields held firm against every weapon they used. This wasn't going to be easy. We're losing too many ships, Chaewon's second-in-command reported. The shields are too strong. On the planet's surface, inside the Council chambers, Seer Mothrix moved quietly through ancient corridors. The old being had spent thousands of years watching the Council drift from noble ideals into tyranny. Now, finally, there was a chance to correct that course. Mothrix reached the shield control center. The guards didn't question the ancient counselor's presence. By the time they realized something was wrong, Mothrix had already accessed the primary systems. For the future, the old seer whispered and entered the shutdown codes. In orbit, Coalition sensors detected something impossible. The planetary shields were failing. Section by section, they flickered and went dark. Chaewon didn't hesitate. All ships break through formation. Captain Soman, your team is cleared for landing. Soman Han and her Marines launched from the Indomitable in 20 armored dropships. They punched through the weakened shields and streaked toward the planet's surface. Anti-aircraft fire tried to stop them, but Jakran's Vokhtar fighters flew cover, taking heavy losses to protect the landing force. The dropships crashed through the roof of the Council chambers. Soman and her combined force of humans and allied species poured into the building. Council guards tried to stop them, but they were ceremonial troops, not battle-hardened soldiers. Within minutes, Soman's team had reached the main chamber. High Arbiter Quinlara stood at the center, surrounded by the remaining counselors, the crystalline being pulsed with angry red light. You dare invade these sacred halls? Sacred? Soman removed her helmet. There's nothing sacred about a place where freedom goes to die. Mothrix emerged from the shadows. It's over, Quinlara. I've disabled the shields. The codes you relied on no longer work. The Council's power was always an illusion, maintained only because no one challenged it. Traitor. Vexthor hissed at Mothrix. You've doomed us all. No, Mothrix replied calmly. I've freed us all. Outside, the space battle was turning. With the planetary shields down, the Council ships lost their strategic advantage. More Coalition vessels arrived through the Singularity Network. Council captains began to realize they couldn't win. One by one, ships stopped firing and broadcast surrender signals. In the Council chambers, Quinlara dimmed. The High Arbiter knew defeat when it came. What happens now? Will you destroy us as we would have destroyed you? President Taeyong-o appeared via hologram. He had traveled to the battle aboard a diplomatic ship. No, that's the difference between us. We don't want revenge. We want change. Minho stepped forward. The Galaxy Council will be dissolved. In its place, we propose a Galactic Federation. Every species gets an equal vote. No guardians. No forced compliance. Just free peoples choosing to work together. Impossible, Quinlara said. The galaxy needs order. Needs structure. It needs freedom, Jewon Kim replied. She had come with the landing force. We've analyzed the data Mothrix provided. Do you know what we found? Species under Council rule showed almost no technological or cultural advancement for thousands of years. You didn't maintain order. You maintained stagnation. Admiral Unisong appeared on screen from Earth. Every species here gets a choice. Join the Federation willingly or remain independent. But no one will be forced. No one will be conquered. Those days are over. The vote happened 3 days later. Representatives from over 300 species gathered in a temporary assembly. Some were former council members, others were newly freed worlds. All had equal voices for the first time. The Galactic Federation was established with a simple charter. All species had the right to self-determination. Military force could only be used for defense. Technology and knowledge would be shared freely. Disputes would be resolved through discussion, not domination. Minho Park was elected as the first Secretary General. He stood before the assembly, looking at the hundreds of different beings present. We didn't start this fight. We only wanted to live in peace. But when peace was denied to us, we chose to fight not just for Earth, but for every species that had suffered under tyranny. He paused, letting his words translate across multiple languages and communication methods. Today we begin something new. Not perfect. We'll make mistakes. We'll have disagreements. But we'll face them together as equals. 5 years passed. Earth became a center of learning and culture, welcoming students and artists from across the galaxy. The Institute of Interspecies Understanding, founded by Ji-won Kim, taught thousands of beings to appreciate different cultures and perspectives. Admiral Yuna Song commanded the Federation Defense Force, not as a tool of conquest but as a shield against threats. The force included ships and crew from dozens of species, working together to protect all member worlds. Dr. Sun Woo Choi opened his research to the galaxy. The technologies Earth had developed were shared freely, while in return other species shared their own innovations. Progress accelerated across all Federation worlds. Captain Soman Han led a new organization dedicated to finding and helping oppressed peoples anywhere in the galaxy. Her team included former council species and former rebels, united in their commitment to freedom. Commander Hyun Lee established the Federation Naval Academy, training the next generation of officers. Students from hundreds of worlds learned not just tactics and strategy, but the responsibility that came with power. Mothrix lived to see the changes take root. The ancient being spent its final years writing a history of the Council's rise and fall, a warning for future generations about the dangers of stagnation and fear. Even some former Council leaders adapted. Vexthor, the Draxian who had delivered Earth's ultimatum, grudgingly admitted that the new system had benefits. The Draxian Empire joined the Federation, contributing their military expertise to the common defense. War Master Korvath, released from prison after 3 years, wrote a military treatise about Earth's tactics. It became required reading at the Naval Academy. In it he wrote, "I learned that true strength isn't about domination. It's about the courage to stand for what's right even when victory seems impossible." Minho stood in his office on the new Federation headquarters station, looking out at the stars. Ji-won joined him carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Tired?" she asked. "Always," he admitted with a smile. "But it's worth it." They watched ships from 100 worlds coming and going, trade and culture flowing freely for the first time in millennia. "Do you ever think about that day on the council station?" Ji-won asked. "When they gave us the ultimatum?" "Every day," Minho replied. "They thought we were dangerous because of our history of violence. They never understood that the same species that fought each other so fiercely would fight even harder for freedom." "The galaxy is better now," Ji-won said. "Messy, complicated, but better." Minho nodded. "That's what freedom looks like. Not perfect order maintained by fear, but chaotic progress driven by hope. On Earth, a monument was erected to honor those who died in the fight for freedom. It bore a simple inscription. They told us to surrender. We said no. For that choice, the galaxy is free. The Council had ruled for 50,000 years, believing their power was eternal, but they made one critical mistake. They never anticipated that Earth would hit back. And in doing so, Earth didn't just win its own freedom. It sparked a revolution that freed the entire galaxy. The age of the Council was over. The age of the Federation had begun.